Good morning and a very warm welcome everyone to today's IBG Knowledge Cafe webinar series on Zoom. Today's topic, as we all know, is protection and monetization of the brand. Now, before we even kickstart the event, I cannot stop myself from reminding all of you about the exciting pot boiler being back. So I hope to see all of you, and I must see all of you on the 1st of September at Dry Martini, 6:30 p.m. onwards in Bandra West. And I'm sure our founder, President Vikash and Priya will tell you more in detail about what this amazing pot boiler is and why I'm so excited about it. We have with us, of course, Vikash Mitasen, who is our founder president, IBG's CEO, Priya Pansare, and her entire team, Girish Sidhia here today. And of course, our specialized intellectual property experts, Ms. Srishti Sanghania, who's a senior associate at K. Singhania and Company, and Mr. Vanshaj Mehta, an associate at K. Singhania and Company. A big round applause to welcome all the dignitaries on our virtual stage today. You can do virtual clapping, don't worry. So by now you realize I'm Meenal Sinha. I'm one of the members of this amazing chamber, and I'll be your host for today. Let us start with a brief introduction about IBG. So IBG, or India Business Group, is a modern non-profit chamber of commerce focused on mentoring and supporting Indian businesses to help them grow into global corporations. It was founded, of course, by Mr. Vikash Mitasen, who's currently the CMD of Nazara Technologies and also the Honorary Consul General of the Republic of Mali. And besides that, he wears many other hats that we have to talk to him and get his mentorship to understand. IBG has a network of over 80,000 business owners and top-notch professionals with over 1,000 active members across India pertaining to various sectors like finance, legal, marketing, media, manufacturing, banking, pharma, etc. And we engage with both international and domestic chambers and arrange one-on-one business meetings with chambers members, potential companies. We also help identify potential partners for strategic alliances, etc. for their members. Girish, could I please request you to play a short video about IBG now?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to India Business Group. We are a modern chamber of commerce focused on mentoring and supporting Indian businesses to help them grow globally. IBG was founded by Mr. Vikash Mitasen, CMD of Nazara Technologies and the Honorary Consul General of the Republic of Mali, headed by CEO Ms. Priya Pansare and managed by Girish Bhatija, Siddhi Jadhav and Sujata Pawar. IBG has a network of 80,000 associations with over 1,000 active members. It also organizes sector-specific events for their members pertaining to sectors like real estate, entertainment, film and media, healthcare and pharmaceutical, HR, learning and development, travel, tourism and hospitality, banking and finance, manufacturing and retail, advertising and marketing, logistics and infrastructure, and IT. We invite Consul General and Trade Commissioners to explore trade opportunities between countries. We help connect our members with consulates to explore their business on an international arena. Ladies and gentlemen, we've signed MOU with around 50 Chamber of Commerce across the globe. We're also doing sector meetings for our members to help find the right connect. We do conduct B2B meetings with domestic as well as international chambers, which help your business grow with bounds and heaps. So, what are you waiting for? Welcome to our most wondrous world of IBG, India Business Group. Thank you.
Thank you for playing that amazing video. I would now request our founder president, Mr. Vikash Mitasen, to give the opening remarks. I thought ab chale gaye. Okay, thank you. Vikash, welcome. We would love to hear from you.
आप बोल रहे हो तो हम कैसे चले जाएंगे? I'm not speaking much today. I'm more eager to listen to these two experts on their subject. So probably I'll speak at the end.
Okay.
Let me gather that much knowledge and then I'll talk about it.
Okay, so now you guys know why we all IBG members love being at IBG so much, because our leader is so humble, and we always, every time we talk to him, we learn another lesson in humility. Priya, could I please request you to say a few words?
Sure. Good morning, IBG. So as you saw, we have around 10 sectors, and we had promised all our dear IBG members that we'll be conducting webinars, talk shows, inviting thought leaders to this kind of, webinars. And here we are today to deliver today's session, which is under the legal sector, and fulfill our commitment. Regarding the pot boiler, yes, it's an informal event. And after 1.5 years, last pot boiler was conducted in the month of Girish? November in 2019. After that, there hasn't been any pot boiler. So we're really looking forward to this pot boiler, and we have already got many confirmations. So don't forget to, sign in and get in touch with my team. Thank you, Meenal. Over to you.
Thank you, Priya. And again, before we begin the session and I introduce the speakers for today, request everyone to be on mute, and whatever questions you might have about today's topic, please put them in the chat box. And if you have questions about pot boiler, that please get in touch with Girish and Siddhi. So our first speaker today is Shrishti Singhania, and she specializes in intellectual property rights, international commercial arbitration and mediation, corporate and commercial laws, and estate and succession planning, and has experience of about 4 years in her field. She's been assisting and advising clients from a wide range of industries, including pharma, fashion, textiles, and FMCGs, in protecting and registering their intellectual property rights, especially trademarks, industrial design, and copyright. She's a graduate of National Law University, Delhi, and has also completed the Copyright X course offered by the Harvard Law School. Wow, that sounds absolutely amazing. Shrishti, welcome. And we also have Vanshaj Mehta with us, who's graduated from the Institute of Law, Nirma University in 2018, has certificates and accreditation from the World Intellectual Property Organization on intellectual property rights, and Madrid System for the International Registration of Marks. Apart from intellectual property law, he has an interest towards entrepreneurship. That's amazing. He is primarily involved in the intellectual property and the commercial corporate practice of the firm. As a professional IP lawyer, his practice focuses on trademark, copyright and design, prosecution and enforcement matters, including oppositions, cancellation and litigation. He has also worked on prosecuting international applications filed through the World Intellectual Property Organization, and has prior experience in working on criminal enforcements for his clients. He regularly counsels clients on both advisory and contested matters in the apparel, luxury goods, automobile, pharma, sports, technology, and retail industries. He was involved in obtaining an injunction for a German automobile giant, well, none other than BMW, against the proprietor of an Indian e-rickshaw manufacturer for using the mark BMW, which the court held to be visually and phonetically similar. Oh my God, that's amazing. Now, before I hand over to these two, I'm sorry for wasting time, but I think there's an interesting trivia contest here. And sorry, IBG team, you can figure out what little gift token of appreciation you want to give to fastest fingers first. But without going to Google quickly, who can type in what is the full form of BMW? Are we getting any answers? I have the answer thanks to Vanshaj's profile. Even I didn't know it before last evening. So anybody who knows that, the fastest finger first will get a small token of appreciation. And Shrishti and Vanshaj, over to you now.
Motor work.
No, it's Motoren Worke Acton Gesellschaft. Oh my God. Oh yes. Nice. Sujata, stop it, Sujata. Anyways, let's start with Shrishti and Vanshaj now. Over to you guys.
So before we start, I think we'd like to thank Mr. Vikas Mitra Sen for giving us this opportunity, and the entire IBG team, I think Priya, Girish, Siddhi, Sujata, and even Meenal for introducing us and giving us this opportunity. And also a big round of applause for everybody who's taken out time and attending this session today on a Wednesday morning. So today we will be covering four questions. First one being that why should you protect your brand? Second, what are the legal mistakes usually businesses make while choosing their brand name? Third, what are the ways of protecting your brand? And fourth, as to how can you actually monetize your brand and, really reap the benefit of the brand building or that all of us are continuously doing. And also the session will be really interactive. So I really request everybody to answer our question in the chat box. In case they want to unmute and answer, we are comfortable with that also. Just give me a minute to share our presentation. So before we start, the first question that comes to our mind is, what is a brand? So can somebody quickly message me in the chat box as to which one will you buy? Which can will you buy? Will you buy the can with the Coca-Cola branding or the empty can with no label, and why? Anybody can unmute and answer. It's a very easy question.
I will answer on everybody's behalf. Maybe they have not been unmuted as yet. So of course we go for the branded one because there's a certain perception of quality in our mind.
That's correct. So that's why is it so important to have a brand, is because it helps you to identify the company owner, right? Your business. It helps the consumer identify who is the business owner. It assures quality, goodwill, and also it's a very, very valuable business asset these days. Coca-Cola brand itself is today 36.2 billion USD. So your brand can actually be a very, very valuable asset in millions and billions. So the first step to monetize is to actually protect it. Before we go ahead, we have a quick quiz also. So as I shared today, brand is not just a logo or a tagline. Companies are using their logos just to denote what the company stands for. So we'll go logo by logo. Can somebody tell me what does a Baskin-Robbins logo stand for, or what is something unique in it? It has a number. I mean, I'm giving a clue. Anybody? That's right, Sujata, 31. That's correct, Gajendra. That 31 flavors for 31 days. What does the LG logo stand for? Life is good. Yeah, smiling face. So it's a smiling face, and LG really wants to show to their customers that they want to build a really, really good relationship or a humane relationship with their customers. That's why they have a smiling face. What is the logo of FedEx? Anything unique in the FedEx logo? There's something between E and X. That's right, Gajendra, moving forward, and it's an arrow, which basically shows that they want to move forward. They want to achieve their goals. They're a fast moving company, right? Amazon. That's right, A to Z. And also they have a smile from A to Z. So they are really happy to sell their customers everything from A to Z. And the last logo, what does it denote? Which company is it? That's right, Gajendra, Beats. And what does the B denote? Anybody? It's easy. It's not a musical note. It's a headphone. So they're trying to they sell headphones, and the B is actually a headphone. So, so now we can see how companies are actually, their logos are much more than just a logo. Before we also get these really common myths from our clients when we talk about brand protection. So please message in the chat box as to which of the myths that you have or you had before, knowing more about the subject. First one being that business does not need to protect their brand. And, the business is running by the goodwill of the business owner. Everybody knows the business owner, and protecting brand may not add much value. Anybody had that myth? So this is something that we commonly come across, but it is very important that if you have so much goodwill, you should protect it and register it. Otherwise, how will you monetize it? And if you have so much goodwill, it's very easy for your the copycats to copy you, right? Second myth is always that trademark registration is expensive. It is actually not expensive. It is actually an investment into your brand. And also the statutory fee for small businesses is only 4,500. And for bigger businesses, it's 9,000. So it's a very small amount compared to how much your brand can value later on in your business, right? We just saw that brands can value in millions and billions, right? Then my brand name should include and reflect my products and services. So this is also a myth that people have, but actually certain marks have been refused by the trademark registry. And under trademark law, your logo should not describe your goods and services. So Vanshaj will explain more about this. And the last one being that I'm a small business and no one will copy me. Did anybody have this myth? Because a lot of small businesses have this myth, but it's actually very easy to copy a smaller business. And with social media and e-commerce booming, it's even more easier for infringers to start copying and confusing your consumers. Sorry. So what will happen if I don't protect, or why should I protect my brand? So firstly, there will be a lot of copycats who will start using a brand name. They will start infringing you. So recently, everybody knows about the famous Naturals ice cream brand. And they filed a case against another company in Gujarat who was also using Naturals. And the Bombay High Court has has basically stopped this Gujarat company from using the word natural. And later on, the case is still pending. The Bombay company has also asked for damages up to 150 crores. So that much is their business value and business reputation that they have asked, right? If you don't protect, then competitors can take advantage of your method. So recently, in this year only, Oreo, the maker of Oreo, that is Modulus, a company of Modulus, has filed a case against Parle because they came up with a brand called Fabio. But if you see, the packaging is very similar, and that was causing a lot of confusion. So such big companies are competing with each other by copying their packaging. So if you don't protect your brand, then how will you safeguard yourself from competitors? The second thing is that it may also damage your reputation. So IELTS is a English language testing organization for international purposes. And they recently sent a legal notice to a lot of companies because they were using their logo without any permission, and they were not providing proper coaching. So if you don't register your brand and you don't take these steps, your business reputation can also be affected. And lastly, it's a very, very valuable asset. You can see Mercedes and Amazon's brand values. They are in millions, right? And the first step to monetize it is to protect it. So why will you not want your brand to be a valuable business asset? So Vanshaj will be taking the next topic, which will be what are the mistakes people make while choosing their brand name?
Thank you, Srishti. First of all, thank you, Meenal, and thank you, IBG, for letting us host today's topic. So now that you've gained a basic understanding on what a brand is and how a brand leads to a successful business, we'll just dig a little deeper and understand what are the common mistakes that people or entrepreneurs make while choosing their brand. There are specific embargoes under the law wherein you will be prohibited to choose certain brands or certain words as your brand. Very recently, a company called Delhivery, as you can see on your screen, the Delhivery was asked they were refused registration on their particular mark. And this was because their mark was very descriptive. Now, under Section 9 of the Trademarks Act, any mark that is descriptive of its services or its goods will not be granted registration. Now, when we look at Delhivery, we can make out, like, just by looking at the name, that it's a delivery service enterprise. Likewise, if, let's say, I'll just give you a very simple example. If you're selling mangoes, your brand name cannot be Mango Wala. Okay, so it shouldn't be descriptive. It shouldn't highlight what you do or what you sell or what your main functions are. Then there are other prohibitions when it comes to choosing your brand, such as you cannot use the national emblem. You cannot use any religious script or susceptibilities with respect to your brand. And then there are other prohibitions which come with respect to how a consumer may perceive your particular brand. a very recent example that came up was the Myntra example, wherein this particular mark was perceived to be something else, something other than what the intentions were, right? If you can quickly tell me in the comment section, who all did actually think that the old logo was something that it was told later on and not something that the makers were intending to. Like, I personally did not even think about it until it came to my notice through the complaint that was filed. So these are the things that are very important. Like, similarly, if you look at the logo that is there on the left hand side bottom screen, the mark Simla. Now, your mark can also not have any geographical indications to it. This was a brand of these are cigarette manufacturers, and the spelling of Shimla, the hill station, is a little tweaked, and they are taking a little advantage. That is how the registry or the trademark registry sees it. And your mark or your brand name cannot have any geographical indications at all. So these are some of the things that brand owners can be, cautious of while choosing their particular brand. Now, when we talk about the mistakes, now we will just dig a little deeper here and try to understand that what are those marks that are difficult to get registration for, and what are those marks that are quite easy and quite smooth for the registration process. Now, a lot of you who are attending this webinar is like, they already have a mark. So don't worry about it. We can discuss it. But for the ones who are still in the process of selecting their brand, selecting their trademark, this will be very important. Now, if you see the right-hand side of your screen are all strong marks. Now, strong marks are the marks that have zero to very remote connection to what its functions are. Now, let's say Adidas. Now, Adidas is a coined word. It's a fanciful word, right? Now, Adidas has nothing, like it doesn't have any meaning in the English dictionary. Now, because of this, since there is no connection to the goods or Adidas is a sports merchandising company, and the name does not suggest what its functions are. Similarly, Kodak. Kodak is not an English word again. It's a coined word, right? Then comes arbitrary word. Arbitrary words are a little, like, they are not as strong as fanciful words, but they have a strong sense because, again, it does not have anything to do with the functions of that particular entity. Like Apple has nothing to do with electronics, right? Suggestive will be the ones who may suggest something, right? Like Microsoft, it's a software company. You would understand. Now, as you go to the left-hand side of the screen, these marks will be a little difficult to get registrations, right? Because these marks will tell you by the look of it or by the phonetics of it that this is what one does, right? Like, let's say Band-Aid. Now, Band-Aid, if someone says Band-Aid, it's very easy to understand what Band-Aid does, right? So the more you do not have connection with the functions of your organization, it is more likely to get a registration. Can we go to the next slide, please? And guys, if you have any...
Sorry, I have a question which I wanted to ask. So I am an aggregator for co-working spaces, right? So right. If it should not be similar to what business you do, how does a brand like Coworks, which is spelled COWRKS,
yeah,
how did it get trademark and registration? And for it, I think even WeWork clearly says what they do, and it's like a global brand. So how
yes.
have these brands gotten?
Yes. So there is a proviso to this. So if your mark or if your brand, so first of all, let us just make this very clear that to use a mark or to use a brand, it's not a mandate that you need a registration for it. Okay, you can use a mark or you can use any brand, any logo without a registration. Now, once you start using a logo, once you start using a brand, and it accumulates over the period of time, it accumulates a lot of value, a lot of goodwill, a lot of reputation in the market. Then if you can prove that, okay, when I say co-work, the only perception that a consumer of average intelligence will have in their minds will be of my company or of my particular organization. Then and only then you will be able to secure a trademark registration. Now, with respect to co-work, now co-working, the co-work company is a very, very old company. Okay. And it has accumulated a lot of goodwill in the market, not only in India, but abroad as well. So that accumulation of goodwill and reputation in the market will help you secure this particular trademark. For companies that are very small or have been in the market for about 5 to 10 years, it becomes a little difficult because a consumer with an average intelligence may not be able to relate to that particular that particular trademark and with your company. So this is how co-work will be able to get a registration. Have I answered the question?
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. So now, and yes, everyone, please feel free to drop in your questions or just unmute and ask us in between. We'll be happy to address them. Now, another very important aspect to a protection of your goods or your services is a 360-degree protection of a particular product. Now, you may be selling an X product and you may have gotten a trademark registration to it, but there are times when people don't realize that there are multiple protections that are possible for that particular product. Now, let's say the shoe on your screen is a Nike Air Jordan shoe, right? And Nike swoosh sign is the one that can be trademarked. Now, here there is a factor of copyright as well. Now, copyright is a protection that is granted in the artistic value of a particular article. Now, here, as you can see, Michael Jordan's famous picture is placed on the shoe. Now, this particular thing is copyrightable. So, a shoe that has the Nike swoosh and has a copyrightable article will be protected under both the regimes. Again, the third one is design. Now, the design of this shoe is also protectable under the intellectual properties, right? Similarly, the technology behind this shoe, the sole might have a technology that is very different and that has an inventive measure to this particular article. So that can be patented. So we always ask our clients, or we always advise our clients to think about a 360-degree protection, because the more you protect your brand or your particular product, it will be more difficult for anyone to just copy and ride on your particular goodwill or your reputation in the market. Thank you. So again, people might think that, okay, now we have already decided on what brand to go forward with, and how do we know that this particular brand is available or not? Because there is a very specific provision in the Act which says that if your mark or your brand is similar or identical to any mark that is already there in the register, then you will not be granted registration. Now, a very interesting case that came up very recently was the Coronel versus the Patanjali's Coronel, right? So Patanjali done like a public search. There is a portal available wherein you can do a public search of all the brands, of all the registered or applied for applications for a trademark, wherein you can see, okay, these are the marks that are very similar to mine, and I can maybe tweak a little or maybe show substantial differences to my particular trademark. Now, here what happened was Patanjali did not do a public search, did not research maybe, and they were injuncted. So Coronel, the pharmaceutical brand, filed a case in the Madras High Court against Patanjali's Coronel, wherein Patanjali's Coronel were stopped from using Coronel because the other Coronel, the pharmaceutical Coronel, had a registration prior to theirs. So had they done a public search, they wouldn't have spent so much in their branding, in their manufacturing, and it all just went two ways. So we always advise that before you think of a trademark, before you start manufacturing or before you start marketing, because it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort to brainstorm and come to a particular mark that resonates your branding or that resonates your market. So it will be very beneficial if we conduct this public search and come to a particular brand that is not there on the register, or anything similar is also not there on the register. Right. So now we'll understand the steps in order to register your trademark. These are very, very simple 6 steps which Srishti will deal with, and you'll understand how to get a registration very easily in India. Over to you, Srishti.
Right. So as Vanshaj was explaining about the public search, right? The first step is always to do that public search and ensure that your brand name is not similar to any other brand that is already registered. The second step is basically to file the application. So when you file the application, if you have been using the application for some time, you need to mention that date. You need to basically put documents to show that you have been using the brand name. And if you haven't been using the brand name, that is also fine. You can file an application online. The third step is that after you file the application, the trademark registry, they examine your application and they come up with certain objections. So common objections could be they want more documents to understand whether you have been using the mark, or they feel that your mark is similar to some existing brand name. And then you have to basically justify that they are different and how they are different. The fourth step is once the trademark registry has accepted your trademark, they have done the examination, then they publish it in a journal. And they give 4 months time to any third party to object to it. So in case a third party feel that your brand name is similar to theirs, they can object. But usually this objection may not come if you do a proper search and you figure out that, there is no other mark which is similar. Apart from checking the registry, it's also important to do a general Google search to ensure that, brand name is not similar to any existing mark. And the fifth step is that you get the registration. This registration is valid for 10 years. And after every 10 years, you can renew it. And there is no limit or number of times you can renew it. So you can renew it for your lifetime, right? So how many people think that, registration, please put in the chat box if some of you thought that, registration is the only way, and then thereafter your job is done and your brand is protected and nothing else has to be done. Was there anybody who felt that way? But that is not true. After registration is just the first step. If you have to protect your brand, you need to keep a watch. So there is a service called Trademark Watch Service, where you have to keep a watch on the journal, because the trademark registry every Monday and every 4 times in the month, they come up with the journal, and they keep coming up with the marks that have filed their applications. So many times an infringer, he may change the name of the spelling. Like you can see Nike and like, he'll change a word there and he'll file the application. Like for one of our clients itself, their competitors actually use the same name. They just changed the spelling of the word a bit, like added a letter or 2. And they filed the application, and the trademark registry also accepted it. So if they hadn't objected to it, the competitor would have got the registration. So it's really important to keep a watch on the journal and not just think that after registration, our job is done. There are also, so what do you do if somebody infringes your mark? The first thing is always to send a cease and desist letter to the infringer to stop them from, going ahead with the infringement. Many times the infringer may come up and, settle the matter with you. If they don't listen to you, the second step is to go to court. So in court, these are not very long drawn court proceedings that we usually think about when we think of going to court. So when you go to court, you can definitely, tell the court that it's really urgent, it's really impacting your business, and for the court to give you an injunction. So they can give you an interim injunction where they can stop the defendant or the infringer for manufacturing those goods from doing business or seizing their goods. And that will have a huge impact on the infringer. And that will, really help in stopping them and, solving the issue. The second thing is you can ask for damages. You can ask them to give, show their profits that they have gained by this illegal business. And, you can ask the court to grant you those profits. So, but before we go to the court also, there are a lot of steps that you can take to prevent such infringement. So Amazon has started with this brand registry where you can register your brand with Amazon, and they will let you know if somebody is, misusing your brand, or they are copying your brand and coming up with some products on their website. And they'll help you to detect them and also stop those companies from listing their brands on their website. The second thing is custom recordals. You can basically register your intellectual property with the custom authority, and they will let you know if there are any counterfeit goods that are being imported into the country. And at this, they will seize those counterfeit goods or infringing goods and let you know, and they will not let them come inside the country. So that's a very good step to stop the infringement. And the last is having clauses, proper clauses in your contract. So we often see that, in the distribution chain, it can be the distributor who, instigates another manufacturer to manufacture something that is very similar to your brand, or very similar packaging, similar brand name, and start selling it. So sometimes the distributor itself is, indulging in this trademark infringement activities. So it's very important to have those proper clauses in your contracts that, you can stop it at that level. And anybody in the distribution chain is deterred from conducting such activities. Also very important to understand as to if you're a partnership firm, and if there is a split in the partners, a split in the founders, who will own the intellectual property? If it is, we understand in companies, you can say that the company owns it. But when it comes to partnership founders, it's very important. Otherwise, there's so many years that you were together and you build up the brand. And because of the split, nobody is able to use that brand, and the brand gets affected. All your effort, goes in vain. Also very important to have these clauses with employees to ensure that the employees don't start taking benefits of your intellectual property and, start a competitive business, right? So the next that we're going to discuss is, now that we know how to protect our brand, we'll learn as to how can we monetize it. So over to you, Anshaj.
Thank you, Srishti. So the last leg of this presentation will be on, we will learn how you can monetize your brand. How can you monetize the goodwill and the reputation that you've earned through the sheer hard work that you've done to build up that particular business for yourself. Now, there are two major ways actually to do this. First is licensing, and the second is assignment. Now we'll deal with licensing first. Licensing is a process wherein you will be giving permission to any third party to use your brand for a specific or some consideration. Okay. Now that consideration will be a pre-decided thing wherein you will be getting into a specific agreement with the third party, and there are different kinds of arrangements. Okay, there are majorly we've identified three of them. First is distributor arrangements, franchising arrangements, and merchandise arrangements. Now, distributor arrangements is when you ask a third party to distribute your particular goods. This is very common with the FMCG industry, wherein let's say HUL will ask a third party to distribute their goods in their place. Now, you do this because the third party is probably better knows that particular area or that particular geographical location in a specific country that you might not have have good knowledge of, right? Now, there are franchising agreements as well, wherein you will ask a third party to open a store or like on their name, but you will be providing them with the branding of that particular store. So while you still own the particular brand, you will just give them a permission to use your brand for them in order to earn or gain more from your particular trademark. Now, there are merchandising agreements as well, wherein we will be again asking a third party to manufacture goods on your behalf, and then we'll be giving them a logo or something like that. Now, it is also important to understand that these are all monetizing benefits that a brand will accrue in times to come. This is brand building, and the reason why we constantly ask people to get themselves registered is because a registration will help you monetize your particular brand. Because if you're not registered, it will be very easy for anyone to just copy your brand and start using it. You will not be able to do a lot in order to stop them from using your particular brand. So these arrangements are very important. Now, next we'll try to understand what assignment is, because now we know that licensing is just us giving permission to a third party for using our brand. As opposed to that, assignment is when you assign your brand, wherein you sell your entire brand to a third party. Now, over here we have 4 examples, wherein let's talk about the first one. Haptik was acquired by Reliance very recently, wherein Reliance bought it with its entire goodwill. Now, this is a very important aspect, because while you have been building your brand, while you have been building your business, there is a certain share of goodwill and reputation that has accrued to it. The years of hard work and the years of share goodwill will accrue a lot of money, a lot of upscale potential that a player that is like a player like Reliance or Amazon might feel that, okay, this has an upscale potential to it, and they might want to acquire. So here you would want to give them that particular brand along with your business. Here it is also important to understand that while you may not be a very big business, while you may not be a business that probably has a turnover of over 100 crores or 200 crores, but since we are in the age of internet, the eyes of everyone may be on you. And with everyone, what I mean is even international players. So there may be a possibility that you might have grown your business to such an extent that it reached the eye of an international player who would want to set foot in India and buy your business for a handful amount of money, and then secure your rights and your goodwill in their name. So it becomes very important that even if you're a small business, even if you have just started, or you just 5 or 10 years old in the business, it will be important that you still protect your intellectual property rights, because protecting it will ensure that people start believing that, okay, this is the particular mark that people recognize, and then they can put in money. A big player can put in money and probably buy it from you, and it will make you a lot of fortune, because once a good market player or a giant market player sees your particular brand and sees an upscale potential, it will definitely want to acquire it and set foot in that particular industry, and which happened with Oyo, Byju's, and Cisco as well. So this is the major difference between assignment and licensing, wherein I'll just repeat myself, wherein in assignment, you give out all your rights, you give, basically you sell all your rights with that particular product or that particular trademark, wherein when it comes to licensing is just permitting a third party to use your particular brand, to use your particular trademark in a very specific way. So this is it from us. We'll be happy to take questions now. and we'll also be sharing a ebook. So I understand there are a lot of questions about the procedure and other questions about the portal. So we will be sharing an ebook with you very shortly, for which you can just, if Meenal permits, if they can send in their email IDs in the chat box, we'll be happy to send it to them. And that ebook is basically an understanding of this entire presentation, and also an understanding on how can you better build your brand and how can you protect it. So that is it from us, Meenal.
Thank you so much, Vanshaj and Shrishti. This has been very, very informative. In fact, I was on the IBG group telling people to join because they're missing out on great knowledge. So thank you so much. And yes, guys, please feel free to put in your email IDs. And in fact, even if you miss out putting your email IDs here, you can still reach out to Siddhi and Girish, and they will ensure that the booklet reaches you. One question before I start taking questions in the chat that I wanted to ask you, Vanshaj, you were talking about, the goodwill of the brand and creating that value. So how does one go about finding out what is the correct value for their brand? Right. Meaning, how do we get a valuation done for the brand? For the business is different, but for the brand, how do we get a valuation done?
Right. Thank you so much, Meenal. This is one question that we get, this is one of the prime questions that we get these days, because people would want to understand where does that brand stand, right, in the market? What is their value? And let me break it to you that there's no a straight jacket formula to achieve this particular figure, to come to this particular figure. We can always get a ballpark figure for this. And there are different methods to do this. Now, one of the method is historic sales method, wherein you'll see, you'll try to channelize, you'll understand your market, and you'll see if there is a similar brand or a similar company that has been acquired for that in your market, and how much was that particular company sold for. If that company is very similar to yours, if that company is a competitor, then it will be easy for you to understand where do you stand, and you can compare it. And then there are other methods, such as you'll understand the sales, you'll understand your market share, you'll understand where your balance sheet is, you'll understand your profit margins, you'll also understand where all are you there in a particular market. So in case you are an entity like Theobroma, which is expanding right now, which is growing, in case you are a entity like, let's say, Reliance. Okay. Reliance is a very, very big entity, and it somewhat becomes very difficult to, mark that particular figure when it comes to Reliance. Okay. So if you are a small entity and if you want to understand where you are in the market, these are the very, generalistic ways wherein you can. And it is always going to be a ballpark figure. No, if someone tells you, okay, I'll tell you the exact dot figure where you lie in the market, it may be a little difficult. But to understand it better, you have to check where you stand in the market and what other competitors or your other like businesses have sold for.
Okay, that's very, very helpful. There is a question which says that how long does a brand need to be in operation or market before it can be registered? I think the moment you start your business, you should, right?
Actually, so should I take it, Shrishti?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So what we usually advise our clients is that you should start even before you started. So you should start your protection even before you've started your business, because the whole procedure of the protection starts with the public search that we mentioned. Because you need to understand before you start your business and you come to that particular market, that particular brand, right, that you've selected, because that brand will be your source identifier throughout your business. Of course, there may be changes, maybe 10 years, 20 years down the line, people change their name, right? But you need to come to that conclusion at first and then start your business. You don't want that, okay, you started your business with the next name and then later you find out that there's already an entity there in the market, and then it'll all go to waste, right? So we always advise that it's the best practice to start off with a public search, to do a registration first, acquire that name, secure that name, and then you start off with the marketing or your branding of that particular product.
Yes, that's very, very valuable advice. And there's another question as to, is there a time limit or how much time before the trademark should be renewed before the expiry date? So I know you mentioned, Shrishti mentioned that, you know, after 10 years, you need to renew. So how long before the completion of 10 years should one start the process?
So one should start it 6 months before it's going to get expired. And after it get expired, you still have a 6 months more period to, like, you know, renew it. But it's better to do it before it gets expired, 6 months before. Because if you do it late, then there's some extra charges and all. So that is
okay, penalties and all. And also if there is a competitor waiting to pounce on your brand name, I guess we could land in trouble. Shefali, yes.
Right.
Yeah, thank you. Shefali has a question. Girish, can you unmute her? And I think there is a question about what about substitute product manufacturing or creating near similar brand? I think you guys have already covered that very well. If you want to add something else also.
Yeah. Thank you, Shrishti and Vanshaj, for such an insightful session. It was actually very, very great. So I have a small question that when Vanshaj was speaking about geographical indications, so a very small question that can one use a map of a particular state for their logos?
See, map of a particular state would, again, see, if your product does not have any consonance with that particular map. Let's say you are an ice cream seller and you use a map of a particular state. You just need to show that your services or your goods are different than what the logo is. Okay. So if let's say you're a cartographer and you have a map on your branding, then it shows that, okay, you do something related to maps or something related to geography. But having a map, or I mean, it's not advisable to have a map in your brand. If you already have a brand that has a map, then it might face objections from the registry. These objections are rebuttable. We can rebut these objections on specific grounds. We'll have to see. It depends on case-to-case basis. But then it is not advisable to use maps specifically.
All right.
Branding. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, Vanshaj. We have a couple of minutes left. I'll quickly get to some more questions. Umesh has asked, can the assignment be revoked? And does assignment mean selling their trademark?
So when we talk about assignments and the clauses, there are very specific clauses that are written in an assignment deed, wherein it will be mentioned in very clear terms that you have sold your particular branding or your particular trademark. And then, I mean, it will be difficult to have a revoking clause in an assignment, because it's just understand it as a simple sale of a good. Okay. It's obviously an intangible good, but understand it in a way that you have purchased a pencil from someone and you obviously cannot tell them to give it back to you. Okay. Now it's their will to give it back to you or not. Okay. So, and revocation is one thing. You can revoke you can revoke your licensing deed. Of course, there will be like a clause wherein there will be clear terms written under which you can revoke your licensing deed. But then again, licensing, as we mentioned, that it is just a permission that you're giving a third party to use your particular brand, wherein you still hold the rights to your brand. But when it comes to assignment, you've forgone you forfeited all your rights to the other party. And then revocation in that case maybe may not be possible in my knowledge.
Okay, so we'll take 2 more quick questions and then we will close this. A lot of people are asking about, where can one do their own Google search and public search and all. I guess, is this covered in the ebook that you're sharing as to which sites they can look at it before, coming to experts like you so that they have the right brand name?
Yes, I mean, yes, we will be sending the ebooks. The ebook will have it. Otherwise, if I were to answer it right now, that the registry's website is pretty accessible and it's pretty easy. You can log in and you can check what all brands are registered, and you can actually search by. But then we always advise that you guys, it is always advisable to come to professionals like us, because there are certain goods and there are certain ways in which you need to put in some certain permutations and combinations, wherein it will be easier to understand where the registry and the register stands. So while you will be able to do a quick search, an extensive and comprehensive search is also important, because then there are brands that may not be, you might not be able to figure out. For example, let's say, if I were a brand named Abibas, Abibas, and today your brand name is Adidas, and I'm already there in the registry, you might just want to check if Adidas is there or not, but you might not check if Abibas is there or not, right? But then these two are very similar. And then if you file for an Adidas later on, while I already have a registration, and these two marks are very similar phonetically, so there may be, objections faced by you from the registry. So while, yes, it is 100% possible for an individual to go log in to the registry's website, it's free of cost. You can do as many searches as you want. But we always advise our clients to come to us, and because we understand how people play here and there, and then, get a registration, get an application filed, just tweak the mark a little, and then just get it done. So that is what will help you guys to understand where your mark is in the market.
Oh, thanks. And the last one I wanted to ask, can people trademark their personal brand? So for example, public speakers and, entrepreneurs who, like you said, it is the individual who is the brand. It's the individual who has the valuation. I know people can insure stuff and all when it's very popular, but can they actually trademark their own personal name as a brand if they are going after that?
Right. So very recently, Deepika Padukone Deepika Padukone owns a jewelry line, right? So she has filed for an application in her name, in the name of Deepika Padukone Jewelry. Now here she's just filed an application, and I'm just taking this as an example. I'll answer the question. Now here she's just filed an application. We are yet to see what the registry has to say about it. But people have tried filing for an application in their name. Now it is important to understand that when we file something, when we file a name, we have to show it to the registry that when someone hears Deepika Padukone, it is the Deepika Padukone that they are thinking of, okay, and not someone else. If today I file Vanshaj Mehta, no one knows who Vanshaj Mehta is, right?
We all know, don't worry.
So registry will simply say that, can you show me evidence that people know, and people know you, number one, and people know you in such an extent that if someone hears Vanshaj Mehta, they think of you in particular. So now, of course, there are names that have gotten registration. Let's say Henry Ford, the car, right? The automobile giant has gotten trademark registration. It's a name, right? But they have a lot of backing. If you hear Ford, you automatically think of that particular automobile giant, right? So you need to have that goodwill, that reputation in the market, wherein if you hear a particular name, you understand, okay, it's that particular entity that I'm talking about.
So that's amazing. I think we are right on time right now. So thank you once again, Shrishti and Vanshit, for this amazingly knowledgeable session. And thank you, IBG, as usual, for giving us all the opportunity to attend something so useful. And before I close, let me request Priya and Vikash if they want to have a few words. Vikash had promised he will talk to us at the end of the session. So Vikash.
Yes, I will. So let me tell you, talking of trademarks, patents, and all these things, I have been a complete believer. Since the time I started making any products 40 years back, I used to always file for a trademark. Whether it helped me or not, though it never helped, there was never a reason to invoke it, my registration, but that was my practice, which continues even now. This was a very highly technical thing today. What I want to say about this is that Indians per se, as per our nature and habit, most Indians don't believe in trademarking. And very few in patents. Patents, of course, we are not touched today. That's a subject by itself. Very few people, Indians, believe in trademarking. Just the knowledge itself is lacking. So what this team needs to do actually is be speaking all over the place. We are in Bombay, so to some extent, we have that knowledge and information. Yeah. In the interiors, it's completely absent. People are making products, they're also copying names and also going to similar names without understanding that they're going to be spending money on that brand and one day it will be removed from them. If at all they become, as a competition to the main brand, they will just get them out. This is very important. The other thing I want you to talk or actually ask, but there is no time, is we are hearing a lot about brand extensions. So we'll keep it for some other time. As a subject by itself, what value do people get by extending a quality brand to shoes? It's so irrelevant, but it's happening. Other thing I had wanted to know what about services? Are services brandable? Which are not? What should one do when you get into a service situation? Should we try to brand or just let the work speak for itself? And then, one more thing which I always did was whenever I wanted to register a brand or did it, I also registered about 10 similar names around that brand, just to stop anybody trying to capture that brand by a slight change. So I have that experience. I'm really very happy to hear these experts speak even more in detail. Maybe, Priya, one day once we start the physical meets, maybe we can have a session on this subject itself in Feb, March, whenever that comes around. Thank you, Meenal. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All the best.
Vikash. And once again, thank you everybody who attended the session today. And like I said at the beginning of the session, I am looking forward to meeting each one of you at our very famous pot boiler on the 1st of September, 6:30 p.m. onwards at Dirty Martini in Sukasa, Bandra. Thank you so much, everybody. So Sukasa was the earlier name, just to give you a hint as to where it is. Look forward to meeting everyone. And thank you once again. Namaste and bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Yeah. And you can reach out to us. I think we shared our email IDs and contact details. So thank you so much.
Yeah. And Siddhi or Girish, you could also download the chat. And, if there are any more questions that have not been answered, you can share those with Siddhi and Vanshit and they can answer them.
Right.
Thank you once again, Meenal, IBG, everyone. On behalf of K. Singhania and Company, I thank everyone for letting us host this wonderful presentation. And you've been a great audience. We'll definitely look forward to other questions that you might have, which we were not able to address due to the paucity of time. We look forward to this relation. In the future also, we'll definitely want to conduct more such webinars. We'll talk more about extension of brands, as Vikas sir said. We'll be happy to conduct one session on that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. I think we can end the meeting now. Thanks again, everybody, for the time. And IBG team has shared the details for the pot boiler. Please note it down.